Hello everybody and welcome. It's our 200th list video, which is absolutely wild to me. We've been doing list videos for obviously now, if we did one a week, that's over 4 years, or just under 4 years of list videos, which is kind of crazy, because we haven't missed a list video since our first one. And for our 100th list video, we did a video where Travis, Brent, and I each just listed our favorite lists. We thought we would be a little bit cheeky. It's our 100th list video. Let's have some fun with it. And I was going to do something similar for our 200th list video. And it was the process of just me actually ranking all of our list videos. But as I was going through, I was kind of actually just astounded by the amount of content that we have created and talked about in our list videos. And I've been doing a lot of like self-reflection recently on Arkham, as I've been like, discovering a lot about the game over the last year. And someone also on my stream today asked, how do you like keep the game interesting? So while going all this, I just kind of got inspiration to do a more kind of, not necessarily about Arkham's gameplay, but just like, how do you, as a player, not get sick of Arkham? Because that's some of the things where, especially like, Arkham is a very, very good game. But if you consume too much of anything, you're going to get sick of it, and then you just might like be tired of Arkham. Your patience might be thinner, you might get like angrier at the game quicker, you just might not be having as much fun as you did. And as someone who has played a lot of Arkham, who continues to play a lot of Arkham, and will continue playing a lot of Arkham, I wanted to pass on to you how I keep Arkham interesting for myself, and maybe this will be something that can be interesting, helpful for you as well, if you're kind of just like, if you find yourself at sort of like a personal crossroads for Arkham. So why don't we dive in, get this going, and go. I have 6 little things here. I'm going to be forming them in questions for you to ask yourself, and also things that I ask myself. So the first one I like to ask is, the player card collection is big. Am I exploring it fully? This was actually a big reason for back in 2022 when I did my first resolution, which was all about playing every investigator through a campaign. I understand why people have play styles and they have things that they like and they don't, but I could not imagine, and I don't get, someone only playing like one investigator over and over and over again. Or alternatively, only saying like, I only like 1 or 2 classes, that's all I'm gonna play. Because the player card collection is big, it's huge, and exploring it is kind of what is like a big part of Arkham Horror, the card game. So, are you exploring it fully? Are you playing all the investigators? Are you trying player cards that you have not tried before? Or are you just always going to the exact same player cards that you've played previously? This was carried over, my 2022 resolution, turned into my 2023 resolution, was to play every card in Arkham. It was crazy. As I say, I don't recommend you do that, but it did give me a lot of excitement about the game as I was trying out cards that I never tried before, and I was discovering things about Arkham, a game that I've been playing since it first came out in the last year. And a lot of my ideology of the game has changed since then as I've been doing all these things. So, if you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and Arkham is just like, there's nothing new that you think you can discover, ask yourself if you're actually attempting to discover more things, or if you're just building like the same decks again and again and again. Maybe try something where you're like, I've never played like a full Clover Sister Mary, let's give it a shot. That's just a random example off the top of my head. Or like, I've never played, like an archetype that is just like, like an archetype that's just completely out of my wheelhouse, right? It's just one of those things that you could just try. Like, and if you say that I don't like the rogue class, have you tried the rogue class, right? It's just one of those things, like, if you're like, I don't think Seekers are fun, like, do you have to build the seeker that all content creators talk about as just the seeker that absolutely just destroys the game? Or do you want to explore the seeker class and maybe try to find something that you can potentially like in it? Because the card pool is big, and I think that the thought process of I don't like X because Y is you, or just because is kind of just a defeatist attitude and will ultimately lead to burnout quicker. So that's why with me, I will try every investigator. I will try different builds with investigators. I will try all the cards because I need to keep the game interesting for myself, and the way to do that is to not gate myself out of the collection. There are cards that I've tried building with, like Grit Your Teeth. I've played with Grimm's Fairy Tales. I know they're not for me, but at least I tried, and I'm always on like kind of the hunt for maybe that I'll find something new in them. Next one here, are there investigators you haven't played yet? So this carries over to the first one of just like the player cards are big, the investigators are big. You kind of just want to make sure you're touching on all of them. If there's only an investigator that you've, or alternatively, is there an investigator that you've played too much, right? Like let's just say, for example, you're like me. I've played Silas probably like 10 times at this point, and I can still have fun playing Silas. And a question I can ask myself is, can I translate Silas's style of play to another investigator? So this goes to my first point as well, which is that maybe if you're like, I only like this investigator, you should, instead of saying like, I only like this investigator, I'm only going to play this investigator, and then be like, can I discover this style of investigator that I like in another investigator? I long for making a great example is Astronomical Atlas. I love to just like take that card and put it in a variety of different people who can play it to see what sort of discoveries I can make with the card. This is a big reason why I also still build Jim Culver decks. He's one of my favorite investigators on flavor, and he's not good, but I like exploring with him, right? So are there any investigators you haven't played with? Or are there investigators that you can like side slide the style to? Or alternatively, are there investigators you like that you kind of just want to try a wacky build with? These are questions that I ask myself, especially right now. I'm in a very weird point. I talked about this in my resolution roundup video, the final one, where I don't really know what to build anymore because over 2023, I built everything that I wanted to build. So I'm kind of just looking at the player card collection and being like, okay, how can I make this interesting? So this video, I guess, is also me doing my own form of Arkham therapy to remind myself how I can still find this game interesting in certain ways, because it's important. You don't want to get burnt out on your stuff that you love, and we're gonna dive into this deeper as this goes. I know this all sounds like maybe some people think I'm like quitting Arkham. I'm not quitting Arkham. Don't worry. I still really like Arkham. Eric and I recorded on Monday. Eric and I recorded some discussion video on Monday, and I still love the game, but I know some people are already like thinking I'm gonna quit Arkham. It's not happening. Don't worry. Number 3, have you played any of the custom campaigns or player cards? This is actually this was my solution for how to make Arkham more interesting for me in 2024. I played all the official player cards. There's also a new expansion coming out, which is going to be super sick. But I've played all the official player cards, but there's been a lot of custom player cards that I've reviewed. Well, not reviewed, showcased. And I was like, I want to play with these cards, but I never did. So this year is my year of exploring custom player cards. If you feel like you've played all the investigators, if you feel like you've played all the player cards, there is a large amount of custom player cards and campaigns that you should explore. We have selections of, we have list videos of select custom content on the channel. We also have showcases for a variety of custom content. And spoiler alert, I guess I should do it on this side so you can actually see my mouth when I whisper because my light's over here. And spoiler alert, but there is going to be more custom player cards content coming on the channel as well in the 2024, because this was my solution for how I could keep Arkham more interesting for myself in the year 2024. So this is one of those things where I understand if you play purely on paper, it's not the easiest thing to do this. I'm not going to pretend that it's easy to just like print the cards professionally. But if you do play on Tabletop Simulator, these are all readily available. And a good chunk of custom campaigns, I'm not too sure about the player cards off the top of my head, have print and play versions, so you don't need to print them professionally. If you really want to, you can do some arts and crafts, print them out, sleeve them up with just like a Arkham or Magic or just a playing card behind it, and then you can still experience the custom campaign without having to put the money into printing it professionally through a service like Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio. So ask yourself, have you done this? This is a good way to keep it interesting. There's a whole new world and whole new designers out there, right? Because a lot of custom content designers for campaigns especially are going to do things that you're not going to see, that you haven't seen in official campaigns, because this is their first, second, or third, yada, 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 custom campaign, which means that they're kind of coming in from a completely fresh perspective, and they're not trying to design their 8th custom campaign. They're on their first, where it's filled with all the really cool ideas. So there's a lot of fun discoveries to be made there. Do you have any interest in trying some challenge runs? This is something that Travis, Byrne, and I do to kind of just keep Arkham super interesting for ourselves, where we've actually talked about this in a lot of videos, where it's like, you know, like how to, you know, keep Arkham, like how, like house rules for Arkham. We're drafting. We were on our 3rd draft challenge right now. We've done different forms of drafting in the past. We've done like pass it on decks, right? Where you build one deck for another person, and then you keep passing it around. Like, so you pass, like, I built for Bryn built for Travis built for me. And those were fun. This is also something that you can do in 2-player. A lot of my stuff that I do actually with challenge runs. One of the dumbest challenge runs I've ever made is I did Circle Undone with 2 decks, where each deck can only have 1 card with the first, with that letter of the alphabet as its first letter. And it was challenging. And it was fun because it was challenging and allowed me to explore my cards in a way I couldn't. Another thing you can do that is really simple. This is what Travis and I have done previously. You could just like, you can just limit your collection, which is a good way of taking advantage of cards, once again, that you might not have played. So this is something that, like, even if you've played all the cards before, limiting your scope on that collection in a variety of ways with challenges is a good way for you to potentially discover new methods of looking at those cards that you've played with multiple times before, or alternatively, keep the player cards interesting. On our Patreon, which you can find down in the description, we do also have a seasonal challenge that changes every 2 months with some challenge rules that you can follow along with that as well. This next one is what I always say, and actually probably the thing that I do the most often to keep me interested in Arkham. And that's just taking a break. Have you tried taking a break? I don't think about Arkham. I don't look at Arkham when I'm not making a video, right? Like, I'm in a very different position than a lot of other people, where this is like my job. So apart from so it's one of those things that I can just turn myself off from Arkham. I can just be like, Arkham mode is done. I don't need to think about Arkham right now. I actually still play Arkham casually. I was just playing with a new player recently. They played a Tommy deck and had a great time. But when I'm not playing Arkham, I just take a break. I can't take like a hard break, you know, and just like stop playing Arkham for like a month, because I will, you know, I gotta make the videos. That's just what I gotta do. But if you are finding yourself bored with Arkham, the best way to keep it interesting is just stop. Just don't play Arkham for a bit. I know there are some of our viewers who say that they don't play Arkham, but they still like engage in Arkham content. They still engage in Arkham discussion. Just because you're not playing the game doesn't mean you stopped playing the game. Maybe you'll stop playing, you'll take a break, and you'll never come back. That could happen. But that could just be one of those things that your time in Arkham is done. Things just end, right? And that's not a bad thing. It just means you got to experience a game for a while, and you ultimately just grew out of interest with it. However, a lot of the times you're going to take a break, and you're going to come back, and you're going to be like, forgot how much I love Arkham. So if you're having a hard time finding the desire to play, especially if you play like solo or two-handed solo, it's hard to like, it's easier to play when you have other people to play with, right? And you can like discuss your decks, or like me when I'm lucky with Eric, and I can just be like, this is a new player, experience the game, and that's so cool to me. But when you're playing just by yourself, it can be hard to find the drive to play. So don't force the drive, right? Just stop for a bit. Do something else. Play a video game, watch a movie, or alternatively, The last way that I keep Arkham interesting is I play other board games. I love Arkham. It's probably one of my favorite games. It changes a lot. I have a lot of favorite board games. There's a reason this channel is called Playing Board Games, because we started playing board games. We started with Eldritch Horror. We started with things like Castles of Burgundy. We started just with Ticket to Ride was one of the first games we played. Board games are great. I love board games, but I can't just play one board game, right? So I play a lot of board games, and this is a way for me to refresh from Arkham and not just make Arkham the only thing that I play. A great example is Travis, Brent, and I have been recording and working on a lot of Spirit Island together. We're making it a new objective for us to beat every of the adversaries at their highest difficulty level. We do this and we actually rotate, where we're not even playing and recording Arkham every week. We try to, you know, add some diversity in it. Back in the day, we would record Arkham every week. And eventually I was even just like, I'm kind of just like tired of always playing Arkham. Travis, Brent, and I used to play a lot of other games, and that was really fun, so why don't we just start doing that? We're playing Frosthaven. We haven't played Frosthaven in a while. We're playing Earthborn Rangers together. We're playing Spirit Island. And this is the kind of thing that like made me also enjoy my time playing Arkham with them even more, because it's not in everything. It's just like, okay, every other week we pull out our draft decks, we get clobbered by the game, and then next week we're playing Spirit Island or like Earthborn Rangers. And that's fun because it's diversity, right? So once again, like, take a break, play something else. You might not have the privilege of like having a full collection of board games or people to play with, but there are options for that. There's Tabletop Simulator, again, which you can find games to play with. You can play people with on Discord. But there's also a website called Board Game Arena, where you can actually play both live and asynchronous games with just random people. And it's a great tool, and a lot of the games are integrated very well, and it's also official. So you can, like, you know, support the game designers and game publishers while still playing the games with a bunch of people, and they also keep all your stats. So if you're finding that Arkham is not really working for you, take a break right now and see if something else sparks that interest. Because this is actually something that I'm always looking for, like, my second Arkham. The game that just, like, blew me away on my first play, and I was just like, I can't wait to do it again. While I was hoping it was Earthborn Rangers, while I'm enjoying, has not done that. So that's also like why I'm playing other board games, because I know I'm going to find something else like Arkham that strikes that vein for me and just makes me go, I love it. And it's, I think, what you should do too. You shouldn't, if you're like in a position where you're kind of like sick of Arkham, just take a break. Play another board game, play a video game, play Baldur's Gate 3. I hear that game's freaking wild, and just go nuts. This was a bit of a weird list video. I'll say that right off the bat. Well, actually, not right off the bat. This is the end of the video. I'll say that right on the bat, like just right at the end. I understand that this wasn't like a traditional sort of thing, but this is something that when I was like trying to come up, when I was ranking my lists, all the tier lists, all the list videos that we made, and it was just hitting me that like, this is something that I actually legitimately want to talk about as a content creator. So it's not our normal traditional Arkham list video, but don't worry, we're going to be back to that next week. But that's it for this one. These are my ways for how I keep Arkham interesting for myself, and how maybe you can keep Arkham interesting for you. Because if you're at a little crossroads and you're finding it hard to play, maybe try changing it up. Maybe try taking a break. Maybe try playing other stuff. That's it for today's video. Huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. It's because of you that I'm allowed to do this like full time, which is super awesome. Your support has changed my life, so thank you so much. But in the meantime, have a good one. Thanks for watching, and as always, a GG's.